So I spent the entire day milling more stuff. I was done, but I changed my mind about what I'm going to do. Specifically, or firstly, out of two big points, is I decided to forego the plywood and use cross pieces on top of that as opposed to plywood. Two reasons. One of them is it's unnecessary, and number two, the screws that will fix the roof to the plywood, unless they're right on top of the rafters, they will poke through. And I can get it to, using 2-foot centers that will work with the roofing material, but I don't think 2 foot's enough. I'd rather it was a bit more, certainly a bit more with the with not using the plywood. The other reason I don't want to use the plywood is that it's so bloody expensive that I'd rather just say, I'd imagine to myself that all of the wood was from the land. And with things like sheds and wood sheds, that's the way it's done, not plywood. The plywood was fine in the well house because that's sort of like an interior space, but this is fine, will be absolutely fine as is. And just the look of plywood against timber framing is just not nice. So I'll do it the traditional way and do slats. So these are the slats that I made for it. They're 1 1/4 inches wide, which means that the screw won't poke through, and they'll be going across this way. So it doesn't matter where the rafters are as long as there's enough of them. Point 1.5, I'm going to add another 2 rafters, mainly because when I'm up there putting on these slats, I'd rather the rafters were a bit closer together. I really don't want to fall. The other point is that if you look at the roof line, it goes up, that's 8 feet, so that's like 8.5 feet at that point. That's 9 feet up there, and the land slopes down. So there's a great big bloody opening at the front. And the lay of the land will mean that the wind and the rain is going to be whistling up here and over there rather than from that side. And it's just a great big open space. So what I've decided to do was to actually bring the roof line. It's going to go to there and then come back down again. Let's see, I'll show you from the other side so that the sun's not in our faces. So the roof line will come up and then go back down again. And then I'm going to support them using these things, which I have on account of the earlier, I pre-made all of these. So I've got actually 4 spares of these. So I'm going to use 2 of them here and here to hold up a great big 4x4, which I also milled up today. That one right there, and then bring the rafters back down again and put like a cap on it there. There's a roof cap. Put that on, and it'll be a much better, drier place for it, and I think it'll look pretty cool, because from here, because you approach it from the bottom, I mean, it's a great big gaping hole, So I think it'll be better. So that's what I'm going to do. It's taking me more time. It's going to be an extra couple of days, maybe maybe 2.5 to something. It's going to take an extra time, but I think it's worth doing. All right. See ya. Not easy to do one-handed, I'll tell you. I had to set up some sort of tripoding system. Right. That's what it looks like after you clean it up. And then, so this bit, which I've already got pre-cut, fits in here thusly. And that fits up against there. So here's a wee progress report. I think I mentioned it in a previous video, but I decided to bring that roof line back down again, as opposed to having it open-ended like that. You know, that's prevailing wind, therefore prevailing rain, and having all of that open is not such a great idea. This is still very high, so the bottom of these rafters are, where are we at here? Probably 7.5 feet. The roof itself will stick down another few inches, 2 or 3 inches. So that's essentially what the structure is going to look like as far as wood is concerned. What I'm having to do here, here's what one of those rafters looks like. One of those, that there, the short ones. So at this end, this needs to be perpendicular to the earth, you know, in line with the gravitational direction. This has to fit over the bottom piece. This has to fit over the top piece, and this has to be flush with the other rafter up there. So that's flush. That's, oh, hang on. That's sitting on this piece here, and likewise a flat sitting on this. Some of them are better than others. You know, there are vagaries involved in this entire process. The biggest vagary I had was that piece here, which on the face of it looks like a very sort of self-facing 4x4. That is to say 3.5 by 3.5. At this end, we're dealing with 4.25 by 3.5, and it's expanding in both directions. It's not just one face that is up. Both the bottom and top faces of this dimension here, one goes up, one goes down, off the center line, as it were, which meant that when I built these supports, I didn't notice that. When I built these supports, this structure here, which I'll show you a close-up. So you got that thing ready rotted through on this side, going through there, ready rotted on the other side to hold up it's that other piece. So it stops this angle piece from dropping, and then the angle piece, that tension allows you to put weight up there without the whole thing dropping, because this is carrying the weight. This is carrying 50% of the weight, and it's cantilevering out, and that's stopping it from cantilevering out, is what's going on up there. Look at that. That's when I cut these bolts off, that's the iron. It gets into the wood, then the rain hits it, and it sort of rusts into place. It actually comes off. That other end was likewise, and I just sanded it off, so it does come off. I'll do that in the cleanup phase. Anyway, it meant that when I leveled these, I was leveling to something that wasn't level. And it wasn't level with the rest of the world, and therefore the relationship between it and that piece was constantly changing, which meant that I was literally out 3 centimeters from one end to the other. By the time the whole thing works itself out over a 12-foot length, I was at 3 centimeters, which is like that much, which is too much. So anyway, I had to rejig stuff. Got this going on, a fresh piece. I pulled down some of the height over here, and then lucked out, as is often the case with these things. I just lucked out, and it ends up being close enough. But you'll see, for example, these aren't very good because I'm having to. The one on the end is easy because you screw it to the end of the beams, right? And then you scribe around it, and then you get it, and then you replicate it. The idea is to do that once and then replicate all the way down. Well, I can't do that because things are jiggly, so I have to make each one individual, and it's very, very hard to. There is a method, but it doesn't work for various reasons in my case. But it means I have to make each one individually, and it's all a bit futsy. This one is currently the worst one, but whatever, it doesn't matter. It's you know, is it dry really? But anyway, rafters are now done. Everything Irie. It worked out in the end very well. There's some of my blood up there and there. It worked out very well. The last 3 or 4 were exactly the same size, so it was just a matter of copying it, so that worked out. So it's looking good. I'm quite happy with it. It's square and true and blah blah blah. What's left to do now, 2 things really, is all of this wood here, which is all 1.25 inches thick, so that the screws, all of those are going to go up on the rafters, crossways like this. And I'll use a nail gun to nail them onto those rafters, and then I'll put the roofing on top. These are specifically 1.25 inches here, so that the screws I have are 1 1/8 inches or something, so they won't pop through on the other side, and then that'll be that. That'll be done. I'm going to replace this piece here because some of these this piece of wood was very soft, and you can see how far apart the grains are. I mean, it's a very soft piece of wood. So the screws ended up going too far in, and we lost all the meat. So I'm just going to replace that. I'm going to wait until I'm going to put some can't remember what the name of it is, but a piece that goes here on the outside. And when I mill that up, I'll mill up another one of these. Lovely sunny day it turned out to be. It's absolutely pouring rain this morning. I had to seek solace inside the RV. Made myself some nachos. But yeah, it's looking very nice here. Let's see what we can see of the pond. Oh, there she blows. Right there, boy. Is that the pond? Yeah, it's the pond. You can see the reflection of the rock there. Yeah. Okie dokes.